Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Football channel. Today, this upload is just purely all about the European Super League. Obviously, there's been literally nothing else other than this being talked about over the last few days to do with football. It's been blowing up everywhere. But before we go into it and our opinions on it, I'm just going to let Haz talk about what we're going to be dipping into today to do with this topic.
Completely different podcast today. It's breaking news. It's going to be pretty mad. So the first topic will just be about the concept, basically the general idea of what the Super League is going to be, what the teams in it, and how the playoffs and all that work. The second topic will just be about the players, managers, media reaction, basically. So just, for example, what Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, these different managers have been saying. The third topic for today, probably not going to be, talk about this too much because of just some news that's came out quite recently, but we will go into some depth into the punishments that FIFA and UEFA were threatening to do. And then pretty much afterwards, after the fact, it's just going to be the news that just came in, about how the Super League is pretty much being taken away, with many teams obviously leaving. And obviously then we'll talk about how the fans have reacted, and then we'll finish it off with our own opinions and say what we think personally about the league. I'm pretty sure everyone has a unanimous opinion on that, but hey, we might have some different opinions. And I think that's going to be everything for this podcast today.
All right then. So to mix it up then, I'll start off. I'll tell you what, I'll talk about the relegation part, and if one of you two wants to explain the playoff after. So obviously one of the main things that has caused a lot of issues with people is, even if you can accept the Super League, obviously the rules were that none of the teams could get relegated and nobody could get promoted into the Super League, so that you've basically got the same 12 or to 15, however many clubs who were planning to put in there. You've got the same clubs constantly in there, and they can never be replaced or go down, which ruins competition because there's less to play for, because there's no jeopardy on the line, so that was the first thing people had an issue with. But then also there was this thing about the playoffs, if one of you two would like to go into that and explain exactly what that was about.
Yeah, I'll let Ethan go into that if you want, Ethan. What's that?
Just saying about, I mentioned about the rules with the relegation of the Super League. I was just going to say, if one of you two wanted to explain the playoffs of the Super League that they'd set up.
Well, there isn't any playoffs, is there? There's only the title.
No, there is playoffs.
Is there?
Yeah. I'll tell you what then, I'll pass it on to Haz, if you want to talk about her. Or do you want me to talk about it?
I assume. For what I know, there was meant to be 10, right? I think. I don't know exactly, but basically it would mean that you could just easily get into this final, I think, is the main issue about it.
So what it was looking like to do with the playoffs, guys, is that the top 5 in the league, you could come top of the table, you wouldn't actually win the league. You'd go into a playoff with the rest of the top 5 of the league, and whoever won the playoff tournament would win the league. And that's another thing that people had a massive issue with, because it's coming top doesn't mean anything. As long as you're in the top 5, you could still win it anyway, because it's the top 5 that go into the playoffs. And then whoever wins the playoffs is the team that gets the trophy for the league. And people also got annoyed about that because that's just further Americanization of football, because that's exactly what the MLS do. You have in the MLS, you have a Western conference, and you have a Southern conference or something like that. And even if you finish top, you then get entered into a playoffs to decide who actually wins the league. So people didn't like that because you don't really need to play to be top. You just need to play to be in the top 5, which less competition. And then you can't get relegated, so even less competition, you know. So it's just, yeah, so people didn't even like the format of it, even if they could accept it. Now, going on to just some more of the basics on it, which is the teams. I mean, obviously, a lot's happened tonight, but we'll get into that. But originally, the teams that were in it were Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and Tottenham. They're in it from England. Then from Spain, going into the Super League, you got Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. And then from the Serie A, going into the Super League, was going to be AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Juventus. So they were the 12 teams that were going to be in it. They were apparently close. This was earlier on today. Obviously, a lot's changed now, but they were close to getting another 5 teams into the league. We don't exactly know who they are. There's rumours that it could have been teams like Porto and so on, but they look to have rejected that. But obviously, a lot's changed now anyway. But that would have been the 12 teams going into it. So that's the main thing really to do with structure and sort of the rules of it. Because that's the only point we got to with their explanation of it. So now, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is players, managers, you know, like just general media reaction to it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as we know, this caused a lot of frustration from the average football fan to, I wouldn't really say Premier League manager. Some did call a bit of pity on it, but I wouldn't say it was that much that they did. But especially whether you think it's a bit hypocritical or not, potentially. Obviously, you had sporting television platforms coming out against it, like BT and Sky Sports. But we're just going to go into a couple of the instant reactions from it. And I think we'll just start right here. Right, we talk about fans' reaction. I don't know if anybody's seen this. If you haven't, you can go on Sky Sports, their Instagram, to see the actual image of this, which is outside the Etihad. There was a Man City flag up there on the fencing, and he got spotted today that across the badge, just a massive red writing, traitors written all across it. Then they got some other signs saying, shame on you. There was one that said, the fans mean nout. So that's,
Jesus.
That's interesting. You had Bayern Munich, obviously, they came out and said that it's their best wish and aim that European clubs live the wonderful and emotional competition that is the Champions League and develop it together with UEFA, as Bayern rejected the idea of the Super League. Of course, you had sort of Boris saying that he was going to try and stop the Super League. You had Everton. Everton came out and spoke about how they were saddened and disappointed to see proposals of a breakaway league pushed forward by the 6 clubs. So you had Everton coming out there. Of course, you had James Milner come out as well, saying, he simply said, the main line is, I don't like it, I hope it doesn't happen. Then you had Bruno Fernandes, he came out on social media with the line, football can't be bought. You also had that really big, I mean, simple, but it meant a lot, I think, really, especially to United fans. Marcus Rashford coming out on Twitter, and he took he shared a picture of one of the banners that they have at Old Trafford in the stadium right now, from one of their most famous managers, Sir Matt Busby, and it is the quote, "Football is nothing without fans." So you had that from Rashford. You had, it came out today that the other 14 clubs in the Premier League rejected the Super League plans, which wasn't really...
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, it was expected, wasn't it, really, that? You had Pep, he didn't come out exactly against it, but he did slate the competition for the idea that nobody can get relegated and stuff, because he was saying, if there's no like threat of relegation, then it's not a sport. In his words, he came out with the line, "It's not a sport when success is guaranteed." So he was sort of slating the competition for the way it was set up. But they are the main things I've got. If anybody else has got anything different to me that they want to add, or do you say that's the main gist? I don't know.
I guess I had slight opinions. Obviously, you talked about BT and Sky, and I had a bit of an opinion on that. Basically, everyone was saying how, potentially hypocritical that might be, considering these broadcast sites basically made money off the game anyway. And I have to say to that, the Super League in of itself is just such a bigger issue in the grand scheme of things. Generally, sure, they're making money by broadcasting, buying rights, basically have to pay to watch games. But that is completely different to basically getting competitiveness and the football pyramid basically getting stripped away.
Exactly.
Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Money, for the working class man, money can't buy the Premier League back, or money can't buy back, going from the National League all the way up to the Premier League. That, that'll just be gone forever if it ever got passed through. So I think people are quite, they've got quite tunnel vision when they look at that. Generally just because they don't understand the bigger picture. And which is quite, saddening, really. And I will have to say as well, the 1%, maybe even 0.5% of people who actually thought this was a good idea, I got to say, they're either probably really new fans to football and they don't understand what relegation, what losing or winning actually means for a team. What a league is actually for.
Yeah.
Or it's just people like these owners who don't care about football.
Yeah. Or it's just a selfish fan that's like one of those top six that's thinking, well, my club's just going to get richer. I don't really care if the smaller ones drown. Don't affect me.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And that's why, as football fans, it's quite nice to see, me included, really, the honesty, really, of even though supporting these top clubs and, how, looking at paper, going to the best league, it seems, in the world, which is clearly not, but how would that be a nice, addition for your club? And just seeing the amount of outpouring support from these top six fans, top six supporting fans who have just said, no, this isn't right. And you've got people that I've watched personally, like Mark Goldbridge, saying he's just not wanting to support Man United, and the Anfield Agenda, a small channel, basically talking about Liverpool, saying that he would accept Liverpool being dropped to the 5th division if they ever want to go back to the Premier League. So I think it just shows, really, and that stream that he's talking there, it was his biggest stream, I'm pretty sure, in his whole channel, basically, because a lot of Liverpool support and Premier League supporters came in to listen to the news. So I think, in terms of just fan reaction, it just shows how much of a community football is, and it can't be taken off the 99% by the 1% being these elites. Yeah. So overall, it's just amazing to see.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I really have to say, really, in terms of the fan reaction, definitely.
Yeah, of course, as well, if we're linking to fans, obviously you had all those protests. You had a few that went on. There was one outside Stamford Bridge, because obviously that affected Chelsea, their game today, when they were trying to get in. And of course, I know me and Ethan discussed it just before the podcast. The fact that there was a sign held up that said, "We want our wet and cold night in Stoke," because and I thought, you know what? It's not just nice because it's Stoke and we're Stoke fans or whatever. It's good to see because it's people like caring about those smaller clubs and wanting to go and interact with those smaller clubs and not just thinking like these owners thinking, yeah, we're too good for these. We don't need these. So, but yeah, I think the final thing you could finish it on in terms of reaction. I mean, obviously, UEFA's president Alexander Catherine, right? He said a lot over the last couple of days. You know, he's had the snake comments and stuff. But I think the most compelling thing he came out with was this, which I'll just say very quickly, which is UEFA competitions need Atalanta, Celtic, Rangers, Dynamo Zagreb and Galatasaray. People need to know everyone has a chance. We need to keep the dream alive. Come to your senses now out of the love for football, because I imagine some of you don't have much of that, but out of respect for those who bleed themselves dry so that they can go to the stadium to support their team. Now, regardless of what you think of UEFA, it's statements like that are that all fans can relate to. You know, that all fans can get behind. I'm not trying to heavily praise UEFA because I know a lot of people don't like UEFA because they've had, you know, they've been accused of some corrupt things, but never to the level that these owners have tried. Let's be fair. And I think for this, I mean, they've probably given themselves a little bit more credibility now because of how hard they've tried to come out and hit these clubs. But I just thought that was a really good quote, that was. And whether you think it's like it's genuine or it's just a bit of PR or whatever you think it is, it still really does hit home when you've got that last bit there, you know, but out of the respect for those who bleed themselves dry so that they can go to the stadium to support their team. You know, it's basically saying, even if you don't care about the love of football, do it out of respect for all those people that do care for the love of football. You know, so I thought that was quite I suppose you could say touching statement. But we all, but only one last thing as well is that just because this, I mean, we'll move on to this. I think this is to do with more of our opinions. But obviously, UEFA Executive Committee member Jesper Moller came out and said the clubs that have, you know, signed to this league, the clubs should be thrown out, and I expect it to happen on Friday. Now, that obviously was when everything was seen to be going ahead. But it does sort of link in, but we'll get to that, you know, what we think the punishments should be. Or maybe somebody here thinks there shouldn't be any. I don't know, but we'll get on to that. Anyway, right. Moving on then. So we'll quickly go on to the punishments. Now, we'll only touch on this quickly because of how things have quickly changed, but we will still quickly touch on it. Obviously, if this had gone fully ahead, like it was expected to do, you could say, FIFA and UEFA were threatening to basically all the players that were involved in that league, ban them from playing in this Euros coming up this summer and the World Cup coming up just after that, and try and basically ban them completely from representing their national team. Obviously, the Premier League came out saying that the clubs would be banned from the Premier League. You know, they would have been taken out of the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. So obviously they were really going for it to try and stop these teams going ahead with it. But those were just some of the punishments that they were talking about there, which are pretty crazy when you think about it. But it's good though, because you need somebody to put the foot down, really. But we'll move on anyway, since things have changed. And I don't know about you guys, but I think shall we move on to what has actually happened now then, since we've just gone through that?
Yeah. All right.
All right then. So we'll just start off with the fact that tonight, there's been a few teams, but from the Premier League, Man City and Chelsea have dropped out of the Super League. They've left the Super League. Did you say there was 2 teams from La Liga that have dropped out now?
According to multiple reports and some reliable journalists on Twitter, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid have allegedly left as well.
Yeah, and obviously, what you would be obviously not all the Premier League clubs have that entered in, and a couple of clubs from Serie A and stuff. They haven't all come out yet saying that they're gonna leave, but you would expect them to now. You would expect that's probably going to happen at some point tonight, maybe tomorrow. You'd highly doubt that they're going to stay in it now. And of course, as well, another big bit of news is that Ed Woodward, he's left. He's stepped down as chairman from Man United, so he's no longer part of that board now. There's even reports saying that the Glazer family might sell up now. Sell the club off after the failure of the Super League. But obviously it's all come so quickly in one go. We got the first report of Man City dropping out. Then, a minute or two later, Chelsea are dropping out. And then, a couple of minutes after that, you've got other teams that are looking like they're dropping out. And then only a couple of minutes after that, it comes out that Ed Woodward, is stepped down. It's just all come at once. There's never been, and I said to Ethan, I don't think there will be another day this eventful for the rest of our lives whilst we watch football, because the amount of stuff that's happened not even one day really, it's in the space of a couple of hours, and it looks like there's going to be even more to come. I've even seen a source that's saying from, I believe it's from TalkSport, saying that it looks like they may just cancel the Super League altogether due to some of the teams slowly slipping out of it. But yeah, unbelievable scenes tonight, and obviously a lot of people happy now. And I would just like to say as well, by the way, since we're talking about some of the teams that have slipped out, can I just say how much of I think you touched on it a little bit, to be fair, what you said, but how good is it as a football fan to see sort of these rich, selfish owners be defeated like this? Because over the last couple of days, I've been seeing it across the media. Obviously, fans, avidly, protesting against it, and but I've been seeing over the media, a lot of people, or pundits or whatever on different platforms saying it's really bad, but they don't really care about our opinion. How are we going to stop them? They're going to make a lot of money. I've even seen people saying, look, they're going to do it. Fans will have to get used to it eventually. It's going to happen. They're just looking at the money. They don't really care about you. But no, the fans have actually beat the rich. And I think it's amazing because the fans have beat the rich today, them rich owners today. And I think that's brilliant because football was made by the working class anyway. So we shouldn't let it be stolen by the rich, and I think it's a brilliant achievement and a brilliant moment of football, because the last couple of days has looked really dark, but there's a bright ending at the end here, which just shows if you really do get together and all clubs unify to work against something, they can be defeated.
I mean, Do you know, like, how you're saying you're like a rich people? They offered like 3.5 billion to each club, and since there's 12 clubs altogether, that's 42 billion.
Well, there you go.
Right.
Which is like crazy money.
Well, yeah.
Crazy money.
So,
Rio Ferdinand said on Instagram, teams finally seeing sense and pulling out of the Super League. Football is and always will be about the fans. The fans have obviously not been considered at all. ... Disgrace, and it is a disgrace.
Yeah, I will say I think it's been brilliant seeing so many pundits coming out talking against this. However, Rio Ferdinand, the only issue I have with him is I don't think he's got any right to be saying that, because this is the same, and I only say that because I agree with everything he said, but this is the same person that just over a month ago, when Newcastle were going on about Mike Ashley and how much he's killing the club, he was the same person that said, well, if you don't like it, why don't all of your fans chip in and buy out the club? Right? Which...
Did he say that?
Yeah. That's why
Jesus
Newcastle
Christ.
fans hate him now. I can remember watching Newcastle. I can remember watching Newcastle fan channels going ballistic about it. And I saw the video where he actually said it. And it's a joke, you know. What do you mean buy it out yourself? So if you don't like it, then it's not like you can't all get your pockets together and buy it out. So, you know, I don't think after saying that, like expecting, plus as well, we know Newcastle, majority of their population is working class. It's one of the biggest working class areas in the country. And to just say, well, if you don't like it, buy it out together, as if like they can do that, and there's no other alternative. Nobody's going to help you. You sort it out yourselves and buy it. I don't think he can be talking about fans' rights like that when he said stuff like that.
Yeah,
I tell you what, you can.
About that, to be fair.
Yeah, look, I agreed with what he said, but you know what, mate? If you're going to talk like that, you should also issue an apology to Newcastle fans for what he said about that. If you did that, then fair enough. But I do think he's a bit hypocritical. He is. But fair enough to all pundits as well. I mean, probably the best two on it, I reckon, was probably Gary Neville in particular.
Yeah.
He was really passionate about it, which was nice to see. I thought Jamie Carragher spoke really well about it. But yeah, it's just been brilliant to see everybody, League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League, it doesn't matter. Just everybody getting together and saying, look, we're going to put everything we possibly can to stop you from doing this. And you know what? We've succeeded. And I do think it's a bit of a cringy thing to say, and I've used it as a joke before, but I'm genuinely being serious when I say this tonight. And I am being serious when I say it this time. Football is the real winner tonight. Football is the real winner.
You couldn't be more right there, like genuinely. I just want to say as well, I've just been checking some more recent news. There ain't going to be any leaving but basically, right, on Twitter, every single first team Liverpool player, and I'm pretty sure the subs have came out with the same tweet with this image and this text saying, we don't like it and we don't want it to happen. This is our collective position. Our commitment to this football club and their supporters is absolute and unconditional. You'll never walk alone. And this was posted by every single Liverpool player, I'm pretty sure. Like, just a second. Which I think takes balls, it takes commitment, and it just shows that, I mean, when a lot of supporters were putting, like, basically attacking the players and the manager for this whole issue, I've seen that happen. Yeah. And I think this is a justified but needed response, I think. And obviously, we've seen the news of leaving clubs, but this just shows, I think, the unity off and on the pitch. So that's just an example of what's just happened. And yeah, incredible. So yeah, I Totally agree with you there.
Yeah, and I think as well what's been shown tonight is, which a lot of people have already said this. I think even we said it the other night, which was, I think we all said it. It only needs to take one team to, be brave and step out of the Super League, and they'll all follow.
Mm.
We said that the other night, and look at it. They did. Man City, essentially the first one to pull out of it, and look at it. Straight after you've got Chelsea pulling out. You've got a couple of Spanish clubs pulling out. Then you've got other clubs are going to be probably pulling out soon. Then you've got this thing with the Liverpool players that you're saying. Quite saying that, it takes one and the others will follow. And but before we go on to what we think should happen now, after all this has happened, I'm just going to quickly go. I think everybody can figure out what our opinion is anyway. But just in case you were unsure what everybody's opinion on this podcast is, I just want to we'll start with Ethan first. Now, with everything we've gone through about how the Super League would be set up and those 12 teams and everything, I know it's collapsing now, but when it didn't look like it was going to collapse, what was your opinion on the Super League? I'll go with Ethan first.
I was thinking at the time, fuck, is this actually going to happen? Like, it's like I couldn't believe it was happening. Getting paid to go into a league with that much money, and it's not like it's just like with all the Premier League like saying, oh, they're gonna kick him out and everything, which it's all like the EFL clubs as well. They're literally gonna suffer with money, especially the League 1, League 2 teams, because they're not getting like any like parachute money. Because 3.5 billion for each team, 42 billion in like altogether. How much parachute money do all the EFL clubs have? It's going to be a lot, and Championship as well. Don't forget.
Mm.
It's. I think it's a disgrace to even think about the idea of the Super League.
Yeah.
In that of like no relegation, no like.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's a disgrace, to be fair, and I'm so relieved that all the fans have come together as a community of football to fuck off the rich.
Definitely, man.
Yeah, I think one thing comes to mind, which this has been the case throughout history. When you look at this Super League, it's sort of like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So you know what I mean. The smaller clubs that are on lower funds, like you say, lose out even more, and the big ones that have already got a lot of money gain more. And but I'm going to go to, before I talk about my full opinion on it, I'm going to go to Haz on what he thought about this Super League.
Yeah, I will actually just start about that point you just made about the poor getting poor and the rich getting richer. I think in Premier League and with these top six, I think that would just always naturally happen. But the one thing is, and the one thing that makes football so interesting, is that these lower, less earning clubs can beat these top clubs. You see Sheffield, they can, if they want to, win Man City on one day. You saw 1 or 2 weeks ago, Leeds United beating City with 10 men, and they're meant to be part of the super club. You see Tottenham constantly just in bad form. You see Arsenal constantly just in bad form because of competition in the league. I just don't get the thought in which history and just your money dictates how good of a club you are. And the Americanization of it all is completely, it's just ridiculous. Football is a competitive sport. It's not a casual sort of, we're going to watch these two teams play and that. You play to win something. I was saying this just yesterday, but playing to not only go for a title, but to qualify for the Champions League is probably one of the biggest motivations you can have in the world of sport, really.
Look at like West Ham, for example, as well.
Exactly. These are why these teams are going for it. This is why you see Leicester, you see West Ham, Everton in the start of the season. These teams have actually got the motivation and the courage to go towards these top 4 placements because they've actually got a reward. And even if this would go through and these top teams would go to this league, there'd be no reason to buy new players, no reason to improve anything. And these super, quote-unquote, clubs would get worse. They would. They'll get worse if there's no competition, there's nothing to go for. They'll just get worse and the Super League will just not be a Super League anymore. And, you know what I mean? I just don't see, sure that the funds will be there, but there'll be no reason to buy new players. Before I end my rant here, I just want to say one of the most ridiculous claims was made by Perez, who's obviously the president, of the Super League. And he said 16 to 24-year-old fans aren't interested in football. Completely aren't interested, apparently, according to this man, this fucking old guy. Listen, that's not the case.
Nonsense.
It's the reason why it's the most popular sport in all of Europe. It's the reason why, basically, in most countries, football is played by at least one person. It's a global phenomenon, and it's in generations.
Yeah.
Who cares if, I don't know, Burnley and Newcastle play? Sure, you can joke about it and say, oh, it's a boring game. But it adds to the league. At least it's a relegation battle, and it's something for these local teams, these local supporters.
Yeah.
They just don't see the bigger picture of what a football pyramid is, which is just ridiculous. And to say fans of our age demographic are interested in football, I mean, look, we're sitting here doing a podcast semi-regularly because we love the game. Yeah. And just to make that generalisation of we're not interested in football is just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm glad it's been proven wrong these last couple of hours. That's what I have to say, really.
I think the top 6 should be updated, though, slightly.
Yeah.
Because Arsenal now, they're not the quote-unquote Big 6 team anymore.
Well,
that's not now.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? They're not. They didn't, like I saw a couple of other people say. It wasn't. They didn't base the top 6 on who's actually relevant. It's just who's got the most money. It's just basically the top 6 clubs with the most money, and one of those is Arsenal because Stan Kroenke's, he's kept hold to a lot of revenue because they are still one of the biggest clubs for branding. So, and that's another reason why I know people even more. It's not about who's actually winning stuff or who's actually doing better, because if it was, then if you're putting Arsenal in there, then West Ham have the right to go there. But who's got more money, Arsenal or West Ham? It's Arsenal, isn't it? So they'll just favour that, and that's why it's an issue. But I'd say for me as well, obviously it's a lot of similar things to what you two said. But one point I also want to point out is that the timing of it was awful. During a global pandemic, and as well, isn't it funny that they set up the Super League when they know no fans can go into the stadium? Because they know if fans were in the stadium, there'd be chaos. What isn't it funny how they're so cowardly to sort of rush it forward whilst the fans can't actually go into the stadium to voice their opinion in front of the owners who may be there or the players? I just think that's ridiculous. And the fact when as well, like I say, global pandemic, people have lost a lot of money. People sort of on the last legs now, and you're proposing something where they travel across to different places in Europe every week. It's outrageous. It really is ridiculous. And I think as well, like we say, that Americanization of it, you are literally, because majority of the owners from the English clubs are American or have ties with American influences on their club. The Americanization of it, you are literally tearing apart English tradition for football. Football has always had the tradition of you can go up, you can go down. That is the passion for for the sport. That is what keeps you on the edge of your seat, fighting for something the whole time. And you are literally prepared, and some of these English clubs are prepared to scrap their own traditions, something that we've always had, and let these Americans take over our traditions. We're using our English clubs as well. So I think it's ridiculous, and the main motivator is greed, isn't it? I was saying this earlier today. Those 12 clubs, they've basically all gone to each other. They've all said, "Look, we're the best. We make the most money. Forget all them smaller clubs. Wave bye-bye to them. Forget about them. We don't need them. We'll just have each other, and we'll just make loads of money together. And it doesn't matter what anybody else does, because we'll separate from them. And we'll just rein in the money together, because as long as we're financially well off, who cares about everybody else?" How selfish. And I think it really does let the sport down when you realise the reality of the fact that is these people running these clubs really don't care about anybody else other than themselves, even their own fans. And I think I think maybe that's something this is something we should have seen coming. But for it to come like this and the way it did is shocking. And obviously, like you say, the impact it would have had on smaller clubs, it's terrible. And also as well, not just like smaller clubs losing money, it's the fact that because they'd be out of the league competitions and out of the Premier League, you're taking away the chance for those clubs, like I think you were saying, you're taking away the chance for those clubs to go and take on the big ones. You're taking away the chance for even if it's a cup competition, for whoever, Gillingham, to go to Anfield, or Norwich have just got promoted. You're potentially taking away the chance for Norwich to go to the Etihad, for West Ham to get the Champions League, and go and play Bayern Munich and go and play PSG. You're taking that away because of that. And I think that's just outrageous. It's always been everybody's got an equal chance. And I just think it is outrageous, and it was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. But now we'll go into the final bit, which I'm sure it'll be interesting to see what people are saying here, which is obviously now looks like Super League's pretty much done. All the teams just slowly slipping out of it as the night goes on. Even, sources, like I said, coming out saying that they're just going to cancel it now anyway because of the teams pulling out. But what happens now, right? So if it's you, and I'll go to I'll go to Haz first, since he's a Liverpool fan. So what I was going to say is, my question is, right, those 6 teams, right, they're all going to slip out now. Majority of them have, if not pretty much all of them by now, have all slipped out of the, of that competition, right? They're obviously going to want to just wander back into the Premier League, because, well, obviously, that they haven't got anything else, obviously. Now, you as a Liverpool fan, what do you want? What do you think should happen with your club? And then second question to that is, what do you think should happen generally with all the other clubs? But I just want you to start with your club specifically, since you're a fan of Liverpool, just give a bit of an idea of how you feel as a fan, what you think should happen with your club now after this.
It's not really a complicated issue, but I am really disappointed in John W. Henry, our owner. That board of Americans who I thought they were decent owners, really. They cared about our club, they put money in. He seemed to be going in a decent place. But clearly, as well as these other owners, they've shown the true colours. and I just don't think it's fair for me personally to drop all respect for Liverpool, because I don't watch Liverpool for the owners, right?
No.
I don't think anyone does.
No.
one watches them and goes, "Oh, well played, John W. Henry. Nice 2-0 win." Right? He owns the club, right? But that's nothing to do with him. It's about the staff. It's about the manager. It's about the players. It's about the fans. He's, although an owner, a very small part of that whole system, in my opinion, anyway. And I feel like that's why so many fans have wrongfully attacked these players and managers, because pretty much all of them came out and said, "Oh, I was only told as soon as everybody else did." They weren't part of this issue. And
like Thomas Tuchel, he said about, I think,
not being aware,
like the day before, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and to be part, like, pretty much representing this club day in, day out, the main reason they even have that business is because these go out and play, and it's the whole brand, right? And the fact they weren't even told about this thing, it's just unfair for me to say, like, "Oh, I'm gonna cut all ties," fuck off Liverpool. Like, no, right? That is just ridiculous. I would like to see, and it should happen, all these owners, every single one of them, see what they've done, out of embarrassment, leave the club. An apology won't fix this, right? Because they originally thought this was just going to be all fine, they'll go through, and it's okay. They'll see this new and exciting league, and none of the fans would care. That's their original view, right? And the whole scheme, basically greed, would, in their eyes, not even be talked about. And since the opposite has happened, there's nothing they can do. An apology, a written apology, or even a verbal apology, showing any emotion, would just not serve. Because this was about to ruin global sport. This is about to ruin global football. And I just can't see any of those owners staying at that league for the next season. You've already seen, basically confirmed, Ed Woodward, he's leaving.
Yeah, he's
according to some reports, the Juventus president is also expected to leave in the coming days. Announcement, anyways. And it's just going to follow through. I'm pretty sure all these owners will leave. And the Premier League, when the Premier League said, "Oh, this would be banned if they even accepted this," I think that was more of a threat than an actual statement.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was the Premier League's way of basically getting these clubs back into their league without making any serious decision. That was never going to happen if in a day they would come back. I feel like that would be way too harsh, and it would just.
They can't afford to lose those teams either, can they? Can't afford it, because the amount of fans that wouldn't want to watch it as well anymore from that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's pretty much my opinion, really, summed up there.
Yeah, fair enough. So, Ethan, for you, after this has happened, obviously you've got the 6 teams that are inevitably, probably by the end of tonight, all going to crawl back to the Premier League and try and act like it's all a misunderstanding. But in your opinion, what do you think should happen now with those teams involved?
To be fair, with Liverpool and everything, I think the owners have just ignored the caption of the actual Liverpool club. You'll never walk alone.
Definitely.
It's just disgraceful to the club. And to be honest, I don't think many people would like this as fans, but I think they should be given deducted points for it, because they're literally going into another league and risking the chance to get kicked out of the Premier League for it, and they think, we're getting kicked out of everything, so we've got to come back. I think they deserve deducted points, honestly.
I don't even think they came back because they were going to lose everything. I think they came back because fans got that riled up about it. They know they'd lose too much. But Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
The only realistic punishment I can think of, because with all the FFP,
that's
been given as deducted points for like the likes of Sheffield Wednesday this season.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's the realistic thing I could think of.
Yeah.
So
fair enough. Yeah.
So you side with sort of Gary Neville on that one then, deducted points.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I think the suitable punishment should be that now any of those clubs involved of the Super League should be only for the any clubs that are left in the two cups. The FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. Any teams that are part of that big six that were left in that should be removed from it. Only for this season, obviously. I don't mean banned. I just mean moved this season. So then you'd have like Brentford winning the cup by default. I think for one of them. I think the other one's fine anyway, isn't it? Because it's like Southampton and is it Leicester have gone through? Who's left in that? Who's the other one left? Who are Leicester playing?
Well, Chelsea.
So there you go then. So Chelsea would be out of that. And then for me, what I'd also do is, as Ethan said, because this exactly came out that the 6 clubs signed to join the Super League. Was it? I think this came out. Was it 3 days ago?
Something like that, yeah.
No, because for me, I think it was 3 days ago. So if I'm Premier League, I look at how many days it's been since it first came out that they signed, and let's say it is 3 days because I'm pretty sure it was. I deduct 10 points for each day, so that'd be 30 points taken off all of the top 6, all the big 6. Sorry.
30. Wonder what that would do to the league.
Yeah, and I'd do that. I'd do that. I'd do that. Well, to be honest with you, I was going to say, to be honest, I think, and actually I'm going to say that instead of the 30 points. I mean, I think it'd have the same effect either way. But I would say regardless of where the teams are, they're not allowed to be in the Europa or the Champions League for next season, regardless of where they finish, because it's not like I'm banning them. It's only for next season, but they need to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
You can't let them off the hook. I also think the other thing that needs to be done, and this is the final thing I'd do, is I'd say to all the clubs, I mean, I'm not exactly sure, this is why you can't really enforce it, but I'd go to all the clubs that were part of this big 6, and I'd say, look, you've got 1 week for your owners to resign and leave the club. If they don't do it from a week today, put the date down in writing. If they don't do it from a week today, we'll have no hesitation to force you into the 5th tier of English football. So you can either stay where you are in this league, you won't get European football, you get knocked out of the cup for the season, but you can stay where you are, but your owners need to go. And if you don't leave within the next week, we will put you in the 5th tier of English football. Because, and I say this because it would be it'd be like getting away, the owners, it'd be like getting away with murder if they get to stay at their clubs after this. Because, right, let's not be stupid about it, right? It's all right saying, Daniel Levy and all these lot, right? Roman Abramovich, right? It's all right saying, they've come back, we've done it, right? If they stay there, who says they can't try and do this again? Because look how quickly this all escalated. It's not hard for them to try and scheme these things. And look, for me, if you really care about football, you need to make sure these owners aren't in it. It's as simple as that. Yeah. To prevent it from happening again. Because it's not like it can't. Don't be naive to think that, they've had a little slap on the wrist. They won't try and just think about and prioritise money again. Yes, they will. That's exactly what they're there for. So for me, if you really want to protect football, they've got to get turfed out, them owners that agreed to it. And the best way to turf them out is to say, Luke, right, leave and you stay in the Prem. If you don't leave, we'll put you in the National League. Because guess what? All them clubs, the owners will leave, because even if they want to stay at that club, they don't want to be in the National League, and then they'll go, yeah, I want to stay here, but we'll get put to the National League. Oh, you know what? Sod this. I'm going then, because even if I stay here, I'm going to be put in National League. So what's the point? Then all of them bugger off. You get some new owners in, and can I just say, this also proves that the Premier League, they say they have these in-depth, really good checks of owners that are going to be coming into the league before they get accepted to join the club. Well, clearly those checks aren't very good enough, aren't very good, because you've allowed owners to go to clubs, and those owners have tried to do something like this. So those checks as well that they have on owners before they're allowed to join a club, they need to be more tight and more properly conducted, because we know they're not, especially when it's with a big club and its owners with a lot of money. So those need to be better conducted, and that's exactly what I do. So I remove them from the cups, I remove them from Europe, and I would also say, look, you've got 1 week for all your owners to leave. If you don't leave by this time next week, it's fifth tier football for you. If you do leave by this time next week, you can stay in the Premier League, but you won't get the competitions, if you're still in them, etc. That'd be that for me, because you've got to put your foot down on this. You've got to put your foot down, just because it's finished now. And this is a thing that I think sometimes people fall into the habit of. People, when it looks like it's going wrong, this should happen, that should happen. We've got to, almost like crucify these teams, for what they've done. But then once it's been resolved, people sometimes have this habit of, oh, well, it's okay now. It's sorted. Don't let them off. Don't, because, if it happens again, then, we could have prevented that by doing something proper this time about it. So let's get it sorted and be real and be serious about it if we really care about football. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I would say, just basically adding on my opinion, for what you said, Warren, I would pretty much 100% agree those sanctions if the owners left. Because I agree that these sanctions should be placed because, it's to teach them wrong, obviously not do it again, stuff like that. But it's the owners' fault.
And this is why.
I just feel like if the owners leave, then, I just don't think, because it's not the manager's fault, it's not the player's fault.
Yeah, and
it's literally just the owners,
And this is why I say I wouldn't just go, right, fifth tier for you. This is why I say, if you don't leave, then fifth tier, because what you got to think as, that sounds, you're thinking, right, if you're thinking in your head, like, potentially, what if they don't leave? They will leave. There's no way they're going to stay for that. Let's be honest. Daniel Levy, Roman Abramovich, you think he's going to be in the National League? We've seen how desperate they are for money.
Yeah, none of them will stay if that happened,
Exactly. So, literally, that is a way. It's harsh. It sounds scary. But, Luke, what you'd say is it's one of those things where the worst alternative is never going to happen. It's actually going to benefit, because it's going to force them out. That's why I'd say if the owners don't leave within a week's space, I wouldn't just automatically demote them, because I don't think that's fair either. But I'd just say if they don't leave, just because it's like a scare tactic, isn't it? So that they should just clear out, which is going to benefit football. But I wouldn't just automatically take them down now, because I don't think that's fair. But it's just because you can't sack them, can you? So the only other way you can try and force them out is to put something that's so horrifying that they go, well, I can't be staying for this. I'm going to lose too much money. I'm going to lose all this stuff. So I think, wow, I mean, I never thought I'd be doing a podcast talking about nearly the death of football, but it being saved in the end. It's just crazy how things have.
It's like a dream, isn't it? What a nightmare, a dream.
But just before we sort of like outro ourselves out, since we have gone through everything, I just want to say, all football fans out there, whether it's Crawley, Accrington Stanley, Grimsby Town, Burnley, you know, even you know, Liverpool fans, Chelsea fans, because they've done nothing wrong, you know, Tottenham, Arsenal, whoever you are, whatever team you support, pop out the champagne tonight, because we've done it. We've all won, all of us together. All of the EFL teams have won, the Prem teams have won. We've all got justice tonight. And for that, I think we should all celebrate together in the fact that we have saved football. Football has been saved tonight. And let's rejoice in the fact that the game isn't going to change. It's going to stay how it should be, and it's going to stay for the fans. And that's all you need. So, yeah, enjoy your celebrations tonight, everybody. I mean, yeah, it feels like the only victory I can celebrate in a long while with supporting Stoke. I don't get to celebrate any victories with Stoke. This is the only victory I've been able to celebrate in a bit now. But, you know, it's an absolute pleasure. You know, I know for Haz it will be as well as a Liverpool fan, but for me and even as Stoke fans, it's going to be a pleasure to know that our club isn't going to become poorer from this, because it's not happening now. And isn't it nice, Ethan, as well, to know that if we did get promoted to the Premier League, we'd be going to Anfield, we'd be going to the Etihad.
Yeah.
We'd be going. We're playing for something.
Big ones, mate.
We're playing for something. And obviously for Haz, it's massive for you as well. That your club hasn't been, your club's reputation hasn't been tarnished by this, because obviously if you had joined it, you know, it would have like ruined it all. But luckily, you know, it's not going to happen. So yeah, I think obviously a crazy podcast really, and it's been mental the last couple of days. But yeah, the final thing I will say is well done to everybody for their immense efforts to rally against this. Your efforts have worked, you know, and I think we should use this as an example to remember that when things do seem like they're going to go against us, and when we do feel like it's out of our hands, it never really is, if enough of us come together.
You always have a voice. That's basically what it is, you know,
exactly.
Like, regardless of the issue. If enough people stand together, you know, it can be fought.
Exactly, you can fight against anything, exactly. If there's, as long as there's more of you than there is of them, and I mean a lot more of you, like there was with this, just shows you can overtake it anyway. And also, special celebrations to United fans. You're not going to have to deal with Ed Woodward anymore. So, you know, and hopefully the Glazers will go too, like the others really. But that is it for today's podcast. Probably, in my opinion, the best podcast done so far, purely because it's one that every football fan can celebrate about.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just about certain clubs in the Champions League, Europa League. Every football fan. You know, if there's a League Two fans listening to this, they're included. Everybody can celebrate this one.
Stevenage supporters, yo, put in the shirt, yo. We love Stevenage.
Exactly. What a cracking team it is. Right, but but that is everything for today's podcast. As I always say, and I think it's a good catchphrase, so don't be taking the mick out of this, right? Because it is very true. That's why I say it. I don't really care if it's repetitive. It's so true. I have to say it, right?
It's a trademark.
Hope you enjoyed listening to this, because we certainly enjoyed making it, and it's so very true. That's why I say it at the end of every one, right? If you did enjoy listening to it, then please like and subscribe. What did you say about subscribing? You've got some sort of phrase, aren't you, Ethan, for that?
Yeah, I think something like a catchphrase, something.
Yeah. Right.
No
So
pay-per-view.
if you did enjoy it, then please like and subscribe. If you've got any thoughts, suggestions, ideas, maybe even some tips, we're always open to that sort of thing. Anything really. Your opinions on some of the things we talked about. Maybe your idea of what punishment should be for the teams. Then comment down below, because we'll always read them, and we do really appreciate it when we do get a comment, because it's just nice to see people interacting with us. And I'm gonna go to Ethan to see if there's anything he wants to add before we go.
All I can say is subscribe to the channel, like and comment down below, and guess what? We're 1-0 up against the Super League, mate. Get the fuck in the net, mate.
And let's hope that they can never get an equaliser.
And they won't, because it's
That's the one, mate.
It's full time, mate.
Yep.
Well, it definitely will be full time if the owners aren't even there anymore. Definitely. Right. But is there anything you want to add?
I don't know. I mean, back again, another podcast was probably the biggest podcast I'm ever going to be on in terms of the subject, which has been absolutely crazy. But hey, man, it's been fun. Yeah. Trying to think of my own catchphrase to add on to you guys. I'll think of one for the next episode. I'll see you later.
He's saving it. Everybody's going to be thinking now. I can't wait to hear this famous catchphrase. Right.
Get ready.
Well, get ready for that one. And because he's taking so much time to think of one, expect it to be top notch, guys. It's going to be 10 out of 10. Unbelievable. Right.
Can't wait.
Anyway, I suppose we will see you in the next one.
In a bit.
Football is saved.